Well, on days like today, graduation Sunday, confirmation Sunday, I do what I do and I write letters. And so what you hear today as the sermon comes to you as an open letter to our graduates of 2022. Dear Clay and Sean and Juliana and Emma and Ella and all of you with ears to hear, this is your day, this is your time, this is your sermon. The year was 1998. The month was May. The university was Syracuse. The occasion was graduation. And the speaker was Robert Fulghum, Unitarian minister, the author of the best-selling book, All I Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. What I remember most about Fulghum's speech that day was how he began. He just stood there, dressed in his best Sunday suit, making motions with his hands and his fingers. After the first 20 seconds or so, the motions became very recognizable because there wasn't a person in his audience who hadn't seen them or hadn't made them. Once the initial motions were complete, Fulghum repeated them, only this time he burst into song, whereupon everybody in the audience began to sing with him. And so to whatever degree the Spirit moves you this morning, I invite you to sing with me now. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Sing it, man. Save me from myself, Roger. Thank you. Much better. With apologies to Jesus Loves Me, the Itsy Bitsy Spider is probably the first song we all learned as children. It's a blast to sing, it's a blast to choreograph, but there's so much more to it than meets the eye. The truth be told, it is downright theological. So on this graduation Sunday, we're going to take a moment to dissect it and take a closer look. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. What do we learn with that first line? On the face of the matter, we learn that a very small in stature, eight-legged creature started on an upward and onward journey. But on another level altogether, we learn that just as it is for the spider, so it is for us. It is in our human nature and in our God-given nature to climb. We climb because we're innately curious about what lies up there. We climb because we get tired of life at the bottom of the water spout. And we perceive that the light is better up there, the view is better up there, the pay is better up there. And at some level, rightly or wrongly, we feel like life will be better if we can just make it up there to the top of the water spout, so that we can get a broader perspective on the world. In the next couple of weeks, once your tassel is turned, the 5 of you will have just completed a 13-year climb. You're going to get to chill out for all of 2 months, and then you will commence with another climb. So I think all of you understand what the song is saying. All of us have the climbing gene implanted in us. And you all, my young friends, have just climbed your first significant water spout. But line 2 of the Itsy Bitsy Spider is our wake-up call to reality, because in it we learn an irrefutable truth. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Make no mistake about it, you guys, the rains will come, and when they come, they won't all be showers of blessing, which means that all the Doppler radar in the world won't alert you to their arrival. When the rains come, they'll slow your climb up whatever waterspout you're scaling at that moment. The rains come in the form of a class you can't pass, a boss that you can't please, a job that you can't do, a diagnosis you can't dodge, a biopsy that won't lie, or a friend who will lie, an addiction you can't kick, a lover you can't coax back. When it comes to waterspout rains, the issue is not if, but when. The author of the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes really says it well. Time and chance happen to us all. I remember once, 6th grade, at Mayfield Middle School, right outside of Cleveland, when a tough kid that all my friends and I knew as a bully approached me one day in the hall and said, "Bauman, do you know what a swirly is?" I told him that I didn't, and he said, "A swirly is when I put your head in the toilet and flush." Now, fortunately, I was gifted with persuasive powers at a young age, and I talked him out of his intention, but life often accomplishes what he didn't, grabbing our heads and flushing all over us. In fact, when I thought about both your bright future and those cloudy days that you're going to encounter, I found myself thinking of one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books, part of my present to you today, entitled, "Oh, the Places You'll Go." It is a great read for all of you, with great theology, with hardcore reality interspersed. Oh, the places you'll go, you'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang. You'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so. Sadly, it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch. Your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun, for unslumping yourself is not easily done. You'll come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you could sprain both your elbow and shin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite? You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, towards the most useless place, the waiting place, a place for people just waiting. Waiting for a train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting. Waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for the wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. That's how it is, my friends. Some days you'll be on your way up, seeing great sights. Other days you'll be in a slump, wanting to roll over and pull the covers up over your head, waiting and wondering if things will ever get better. Let me tell you, we all get what you're feeling more than you will ever know. Which leads us straight away to the simple converse truth of Itsy Bitsy's third line. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. The sun shines the same on the just and on the unjust. Jesus says that in Matthew 5, which is just his way of giving a nod to the random nature of life. To be sure, you'll have moments when you'll be convinced the rain falls on you more than it falls on others. But it's just as true that more often than not, friends will smile on you, love will smile on you, God will smile on you. And as with most adversity, you won't be able to explain the good stuff either. Why me is not only something we cry as we sob in the rain. Why me is also something we cry as we bask in the sun. And you all have surely been kissed by the sunshine that dries up the rain. I mean, think about it, y'all. Do you really think you got this far by your own wonderful efforts? A whole lot of wonderful people showed up on your path. People who not by accident showed up exactly where you needed them and exactly when you needed them. Sure, sometimes the rain of your life is dried up by God himself. But more often than not, God uses the people in your life as sunshine, as rain drying agents. Indeed, when I take a long view of the history of Bob Bauman, I see my life as having been laced with people who showed up at just the right time, who opened doors when I didn't have any place else to go. Which is why I want to challenge you five and all the rest of you to drop a note of gratitude this week to the people who showed up for you, who opened those doors, the people who made you possible. Well, that's 3 lines down. We still have one very important line to go. My favorite line of Itsy Bitsy. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again. Now, I love this spider. He is not easily deterred. He is a can-do kind of arachnid. Come rain, come sun, come earthquake, come drought, he kept climbing, which is why this song is the quintessential American anthem, and which is why there wasn't anybody in the sanctuary a few moments ago who couldn't remember it or who wouldn't sing it, because in addition to being in our brains, the itsy bitsy spider is in our blood. I've talked about spiders, I've talked about Seuss, but in winding this sermon down today, I want to push you towards a second song, hence the plural songs in my sermon title. This one has no motions, although it has a tune. And I want to ask Roger to play one verse of that tune right now. Now, we sing that under the title, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. But it wasn't written with that text in mind. In its own way, it's something of an onward and upward kind of song, composed by an onward and upward man who during his earthly life got rained on a ton. I'm talking about Ludwig Van Beethoven. Born in 1770, he was raised in the home of a poor musician father who was described by more than one biographer as a drunken tenor. Beethoven was a deeply gifted but deeply troubled man. He was something of a loner. He was multiply disappointed in love. He wanted nothing more than to have good friends, but his immaturity and his deplorable manners got in the way. He often played practical jokes that backfired on him, got people mad at him, which deprived him, ironically, of the very camaraderie that he craved. He accepted the responsibility for raising his troubled nephew, that young man brought Beethoven a great deal of disappointment. At age 30, this man who'd been so blessed, so gifted with such musical talent, began to experience a hearing loss. By the age of 49, he was totally deaf. For the last 8 years of his life, he couldn't carry on an audible conversation. A portrait of Beethoven at his piano, painted during his deaf period, depicts the piano as an absolute wreck. Apparently, he pounded it into submission to play it loud enough to hear the notes. And yet, and you knew there was going to be an and yet, didn't you? 4 years before he died, he composed his ninth and final symphony, closing with the memorable melody we now refer to as the Ode to Joy, with music that is soaring and passionate. It is a melody that begs for religious interpretation. And in 1911, a Presbyterian named Henry Van Dyke wrote lyrics to it, and he fleshed out its religious potential. It is, honestly, the hymn I have sung and requested the most in my 35 years of doing ministry. I love every stinking word. On more than 300 occasions, I have belted out Van Dyke's lyric. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the dark of doubt away, giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light of day. Now, what do you hear there? The itsy bitsy spider all dressed up for church. It's his fourth verse that really brings it home to me. They're the words I most want you to hear and remember on this graduation Sunday. Mortals join the mighty chorus, which the morning stars began. Love divine is reigning over us, binding all within its span. Ever singing, march we onward, victors in the midst of strife. Joyful music leads us where? Sunward, in the triumph song of life. It is a beautiful reminder that whatever may befall you on your journey, be it sun, be it rain, be it good times, be it strife, God never ever quits walking ahead of you and next to you and behind you, which gives you the courage and the faith and the hope to keep singing, to keep persevering, to keep marching onward and sunward, often up the slippery waterspout of life. Henry Van Dyke simply echoes what the author of Hebrews says. As you flip your tassel, as you emerge at the top of the high school waterspout, as you move on to that next spout to climb, you don't journey alone. You are flanked by a great big God, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, your ancestors in the Christian faith, your family, your friends, the people of this church who've been praying for you and loving you for a long, long time, and who show no sign of stopping their praying and their loving now. 16 years ago, I walked a friend of mine named Don Fennell home, as in his eternal home. Don was a few months removed from a brain tumor diagnosis, a few months away from his death. And he looked at me as only a man with that kind of clarity can look, and he said, Bob, give me something. Give me an image, give me a word, give me anything I can cling to as I walk through this. Which is when I reminded Don in story form of this passage from Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. This is what I said to him in his office on that August day. Don, I want you to imagine you've been running in a long race, something like an Olympic marathon, maybe something like life itself. and you are bone tired. You are weary. You've been running for a long time. Now you're entering into Olympic Stadium. You run through the tunnel that leads into the stadium, and you hang a right to begin your final laps around the stadium track. As you make that turn, suddenly the people in the stadium rise as one to their feet. They're cheering, they're clapping, they're shouting words of encouragement. Some have their eyes closed because they're praying for you. Every one of them is in that stadium because they love you. Their singular goal is to let you know they are running the race with you, giving you strength to take one more step and make one more lap. They are there to remind you that you never run alone. Don't tell anybody, Don, but you know there are some days, in the middle of some weeks, in the middle of some months, in the middle of some years, when I'm weary, when I'm tired of all the church drama, when I say to myself, this is it, I'm out, I'm opening up a Chick-fil-A in Montana, I'm going to hand out chicken nuggets on toothpicks for the rest of my life. But then I look into the stands of the stadium, and there is my dad. And he says, you can do this, son. I'm praying for you. There's one of my youth who I helped through a rough patch, and she's mouthing the words, thank you for listening. There's one of my children who's written a note that I still carry with me in my wallet. Great sermon, Dad. I loved it. It helped me. They are my cloud of witnesses. They run with me everywhere. And because of them, I feel God running with me. And I know that I do not run alone. So when the going gets tough this fall, as it most certainly will, promise me that you'll remember this one thing. We are in the stands of your life cheering you on. We are your cloud of witnesses. You don't run alone. So go, my sons and daughters in the Lord. Go off to school knowing how proud we are of you, how much we love you. Go knowing that we will be praying for you, that we've got your back. Go with the knowledge that God's power is at work in you, that God's presence always surrounds you. And go knowing that God holds both you and your future. You are victors in the midst of strife. Keep marching sunward in the triumph song of life. With all my love, Pastor Bob.